Hello, and welcome to Mind Your Head, a space for people to share their stories, talk openly and honestly about their own mental health challenges, and to give some listeners some comfort in knowing you're not alone. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land in which we record this podcast, the Gubbi Gubbi people. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all Indigenous peoples. We honour their enduring connection to the land, waters and culture, and recognise their invaluable contributions they make to our communities. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. This episode is proudly supported by True Protein. Use the code MINDYOURHEAD at the checkout to score $25 off your next order. This episode is brought to you by TLC Recovery Centre on the Sunshine Coast. Head to TLC Sunshine Coast, use the code TLC15MYH to receive 15% off and experience it for yourself. Aaron Crook, welcome to Mind Your Head, mate. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on today. I'm very, very happy that we could finally make this happen. It was a couple of months in the making, but it's great to have you here.
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here. As you said, we've been working towards this day for a while.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to be here, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. I guess the sort of the core of is your story is that incredible endurance race. Is it the 6633 Ultra Arctic?
Arctic Ultra.
Arctic
Very
Ultra.
close.
Yeah, but yeah, nice. So I've never heard of that before,
Sure.
but I do some sort of deep diving into it. And I read here it's sort of the toughest, coldest and loneliest race you could possibly do. Is that right? In the world?
Yeah, so I've been for the last 6 years looking for the hardest challenge that I was capable of doing, and I'm not a great swimmer, so swimming was kind of out of the picture for me. Everyone can run. I had never been a very good runner, but I figured that it was something that I could learn to do. And I just wanted to go out there and find the most difficult thing that I could possibly achieve, and after a couple of years of trial and error, I was able to find the 6633, and I'm pretty sure that it's the hardest ultra marathon available to man today.
That's mental, and it's something that I'm in completely awe of because, like you, I don't like running. I think had the sort of the rugby background, all we did was running. So when I stopped playing, I was like so over running that I just wanted to do anything else. I got into swimming and boxing and finding another sort of route for my fitness. So I couldn't imagine, how long is the race?
So the
distance wise,
yeah. So it's a 620 kilometer race from a little south of the Arctic Circle to the Arctic Sea in Canada, and it's a fully self-sufficient race. So you need to pull a sled with all of the gear that you'll need for the time it will take to get to the finish line. There's obviously the endurance aspect of being able to run that distance within the time frame allocated, which is like essentially 9 days. But there's also the added element of the freezing temperatures and the ability to manage all of your gear in a really depleted state is also a huge part of the challenge.
Yeah.
So, it ticks a lot of boxes, lots of pain,
Yeah.
very difficult.
Yeah. We'll get more into it, but I think I sort of want to go back to where this all started and figure out what Aaron was like as a kid, and were you always drawn to pushing yourself to the limits?
No, not really,
Oh,
to be
right.
honest. Yeah, I have early memories of, at school being presented with these class camps that were maybe, like 10 Ks of hiking and camping on the Bibbulmun track in WA. And I remember hating it and thinking, like, why are we doing this? This is just like, this is not fair. And now, obviously, I look back on those and go, geez, like, what an amazing experience to be able to provide for kids. But I wasn't really into it. I did always love sport. I played, all of the sports as a kid, and then in my early teens, I found volleyball, and then quickly kind of fell into the track of state representation, and then off into like junior Australian stuff, and then beach volleyball was kind of like really my passion. Like, you love rugby.
Yeah.
Volleyball for me was my entire life, and still, all of the relationships I have now are as a result of volleyball. Like, my wife played on the national tour with me.
Oh, I love that.
All of my best friends are my ex-volleyball partners. So,
did you and your wife were mixed? Like, do you play mixed?
No. She played on the women's side. I played on the men's side. But all the tour stops around the country,
cool.
we were aware of each other. So, but volleyball is like, it's immediate gratification. It's like you do something good and you immediately like get the result.
Get the reward for it, yeah.
Very, very different to any kind of endurance sport. Yeah. So, my life was absolutely all about like the pure fun of volleyball and everything that you get with that. Hugely different to what I then have moved into.
And you mentioned like before how that race in itself is such a mental challenge. Where do you think you shaped your mental toughness from, even from a kid growing up?
I think through my teens, I learned the value of working hard and setting your mind to achieving a goal. And I think that in volleyball, in that world, I'm small. I'm very short for what you would expect an elite person to be. So I needed to make sure that I was able to jump a lot higher and do things that maybe the taller people wouldn't need to do. So that's always just naturally been a part of my life. But I'm really intrigued with this idea that you have power over this body that you're in. Like the will is a real thing, and the will can dictate everything that you do, including the decisions that you make. And I think I realized that, in my teen years, and then moving into endurance sport, it's been a vehicle for really honing that skill and exploring it more. But highly competitive. And then I think that, being highly competitive, inevitably you're going to be setting high standards for the things that you want to do and achieve. Yeah. And then that's kind of fed into, this work that I've been doing on my willpower.
Yeah, that's incredible. Were you always such a confident kid as well? Like, I know you weren't.
No, not at all. No.
Oh, really?
No, I really, I felt a lot as a kid. I remember, really struggling with, managing relationships in my life. Like, if kids didn't like me, that highly affected me. I didn't know where I really stood in social circles, and I just remember feeling everything so intensely as a child. And then when I turned 21, I remember it was like, oh, thank God, like all of that just went away. And I don't know whether that was because I had like been able to, get into a position where I had self-confidence and felt good about the things that I had done to that point. But through school, like, that was probably still the most intensely emotional time of my life. So when you talk to kids about having crushes or, at the way they're feeling about things, I'm always really careful to not play it down,
like dismiss it.
It's really important because, in fact, like, obviously all of the hormones and everything are floating around, but it is a very intense time in life. And the reality is that there was moments in that time during those years where I've been more depressed than I've ever been in my life, and getting through those years is an achievement in itself. I truly believe that.
Yeah, because I can definitely it resonates with me, because I remember I was so caught up, especially when I was going through high school, and like what you were saying about all the hormones, and when everyone starts, going on dates for the first time, or girls and that sort of thing. And I was so consumed about people liking me or having friends or being popular that I started to, what I realized, and I didn't realize I was doing it at the time, but looking back on it, I was starting to change who I was to fit in with certain crews or certain friends, just to be popular, just to seem like I'll have some sort of, external validation or have some friends. And that went on, I reckon, into sort of my 20s. And it wasn't until I matured a little bit emotionally to understand that I actually don't need any of that.
Yeah.
What I probably was, I think what I was searching for was, I think if more people liked me, then I'll start liking myself. And I think that's when the journey started for me. It was like, all right, well, how do I start liking myself and being my own best friend? I don't really need to keep searching for, or change who I was just to have, more friends and more attention. I needed to find that in myself first. And that's sort of where the journey started for me.
I'm always really impressed when I see a kid who's truly independent.
Yeah.
That really doesn't care about what others think of them. Like, doesn't just say I don't care what others think of me, but is obvious they really don't care. I think that's a truly unique human. And just like incredible. And I have an 11-year-old daughter, and she's kind of on the precipice of these tumultuous years, and she's also quite independent. And I'm never prouder than when I hear a story about like some things going on in the classroom, and then she just doesn't get involved and she's not interested in it, and I want to see more of that. And it's it's so good to see.
It's obviously a credit to you and your wife for the parenting, but do you think you've done anything differently to get that outcome in her, purely because that you've gone through it yourself when you were a kid?
Yeah, I think like really open communication. Trying to discuss things and again, not downplaying situations and emotions. Trying to make sure that those lines of communication are always open, and that obviously she's happy to come and talk to us about those things, and hopefully that'll be the case throughout the next couple of years as well. Plus, lots of I love yous and lots of like, oh, I'm so proud of you is a really big thing, I think. I try and like, see those opportunities to say those things, and I try and do it as much as possible.
Yeah, I'm asking because I've said before that Jordan and I are trying for kids, and being a father is something that I take very seriously, and it's a proud responsibility. And there are certain things where in my childhood that I sort of want to do differently when I'm a father, and I talk to Jordan about it all the time because I look back at the child that I was, and there were times where I was sort of terrified if my kids were going to go through the same things that I went through. Yeah. And I was thinking, well, what can I say? What can I do? What kind of father can I be to make sure sort of my kids don't experience or have those sorts of feelings? And what you just said then is having that direct line of communication. And something that I struggled with when I was a kid was putting words to feelings. Like I would feel something when I was a kid, and I was like, what is this feeling? I had no idea what it was. Is it bad? Is it good? I feel very uncomfortable. What does this mean? And that went on for years where I couldn't understand the emotions that I was feeling. I had no sort of emotional regulation or understanding like it's okay to feel like this. So when uncomfortable emotions or unknown emotions would come up, I would automatically sort of panic, and I'm like, why am I feeling like this for? Like, I don't understand it. So I think that direct line of communication is something that I'll definitely focus on.
The fact that you're already thinking like that, is a great sign that you'll be an awesome parent. I think that I'm very lucky because my parents, I had lots of love growing up as well. They were great parents, but I think the willingness to talk it through with a child, like I'm feeling this or I'm feeling that, and to give it the time it deserves and try and get to the bottom of it, is going to. So when they're not sure how to regulate their feelings or there is emotions that they don't know, where they've come from or how they deal with them, at least if you can talk them through, then they're gonna then have skills the next time to be able to do that, maybe independent of you. And if you can do that, continuously, then hopefully by the time they, get to a point where there's, real situations in life that they're going to have to deal with, they'll have had the time and energy to have thought them through and come up with strategies to
on their own. It's almost like that training, like you've trained them. So
I think so.
So when they're an adult looking after themselves, when they haven't got their sort of parents to lean on, they can just go back and they can trust what they've sort of gone through and they've been through it, so they can get through it again.
Yeah, inevitably it's
Yeah.
trial and error
Trial
too.
and error,
so I
yeah.
could be entirely wrong. I'm not sure, but I'm just giving it my best crack, and so far so good.
Is there something from your childhood that still drives you today?
I think it's I think it's just my experience, and I try and think of things that I can take from my experience that will be a benefit to my children going forward. Lessons that I've learned going back and analyzing what happened back then, and then thinking if how it could have been handled differently, and whether there was a better way, and then trying to have those tools in my arsenal should similar situations arise with my kids. That's probably the takeaways for me.
Yeah, if you could have a conversation with your 11-year-old self, and he could see all the things that you've achieved, all the things that you've done, what do you reckon he would say?
I would probably be like, just hold on. It'll be okay. Life is going to be awesome. That would be it. I think.
That'd be it. Yeah, awesome. You've pushed yourself further than I guess most people could possibly imagine. But I'm curious as to what pulled you towards, I guess, ultra endurance races. Was that the first one you went on, the 6633?
No. So back in 2019, the time I was spending playing volleyball was kind of diminishing. Like I had other responsibilities providing for the family, and I just wasn't able to train as much as I had trained previously. And I realized that I was no longer getting better. I was probably just like getting worse. and then when I made that realization, a lot of the joy sort of came out of it for me, like competing at a high level. I still love playing volleyball recreationally, but like, if I'm not going to get any better, then I just don't see the point in
almost a disservice, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't want to just linger. That's never been what I'm about. So I decided that like I needed to test myself in other ways, and I mentioned that volleyball's all immediate gratification, and running had never been something that I enjoyed, and I was like, well, okay. What can I get better at? What is going to be my fastest point from A to B in like developing myself? Yeah. And endurance sport was like the obvious choice. So I went looking for the hardest race that I could find, and this race in the Sahara Desert kept coming up, the Marathon des Sables. It's like a 250 kilometer race in the desert. Over 5 days. So I was like, okay, this is great. So I'll give myself nearly a year to train for this, see if I can get to the end. Like that's going to be my next sort of adventure and my stepping into this endurance world. And so I started running, and I started, doing a bunch of kilometers, and my body changed. And
in what way?
Oh, well, I was all fast twitch, so I was all about jumping as high as possible, and then running slowly for hours and hours and hours does that a great disservice to that. So
you could tell, you could see that your body was changing.
Oh, absolutely. Even now, like I've done heaps of ultras now, and I generally give myself like maybe a month or two leading into an ultra where I train now and then do it. Because again, it's still not my passion, but I enjoy the experience of just like the extreme degradation of body and mind. So I still do them, but I'll train for a month or two, would do an ultra, and then, I'll be playing volleyball and I'll be like, like I'm jumping 10 centimeters less than I normally would. Wow. So it's terrible for volleyball. Yeah. Like it's the exact opposite. But I went over to the Sahara Desert, and I loved the experience. And I did way better than I thought I was going to do. And I was so sure that was going to be it. Like my endurance thing was going to be 12 months long, including the race, and then I was going to be done. But then I got back and I was like, well, like I still had more. So there has to be something harder out there. And then, and I found the 6633, but then COVID hit. So I had to kind of put that on the back burner for a while. And but it was always in the back of my mind. And then this year was the first year that they offered the longest version of the race, which is that by far the hardest. So just last year I decided that I was going to make a run for it, and
that's wild. Yeah. So what is it about suffering? Because you mentioned before that you just want to put yourself in the hardest possible conditions imaginable.
Yeah.
What is it about suffering? Is it do you learn more about yourself? Is it pushing yourself further than you think you could? Like, what is it about it?
I think it's pretty complex.
Yeah.
There are some basic elements. There's a dopamine rush when you achieve something hard, but inevitably the unhealthy side of that is, in order to get that same rush, you have to go harder and harder and harder, and then at some point, you hit a wall. But the complex side is a tricky one, because it comes down to lots of different things. Self-confidence. I have more self-confidence from what I've achieved in the ultra world than anything else that I've ever done, and I did some good things in volleyball. That's been really pleasing. The ability to again develop your will, and then the ability of the will to tell the body what to do and not to stop. I think that if there was one thing that I could say I'm better than most at, that's that.
Yeah.
I can absolutely, I could tell my body to go to a point where it would drop dead, and I could do that. Whereas I don't think that many people have the ability to do that. And that's a skill that I've sort of worked on, through these last 6 years. And the ability to, deal with situations in a really depleted state. I don't think that's a skill that you can learn really any other way. Maybe in the army, maybe, obviously it's very different and the stakes are far higher, but, being in a really uncomfortable state with a lot at stake for a long period of time, that's a really hard situation to be in, and not many people can do it well.
Yeah.
And I just feel like I've been able to get to a point where I have that ability.
Yeah. So it's incredible, because my next question was going to be, what has pain taught you about yourself? But probably that ability to push through those barriers, and like what you said before, like in those high stress, high pressure, high stakes situations, to be able to compose yourself, and still, achieve your goals, achieve your checkpoints, whatever you got to do for that day.
Yeah,
that translates to all walks of life too, in all areas of your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, pain is necessary.
Yeah.
I think that my relationship with pain is probably a little bit more unhealthy than the normal person, or the people outside of the endurance world. But, pain is necessary for happiness. It's just the amount of pain. And again, it's always nice to go through a trauma and come out the other side in one piece. Like, we all enjoy that, like whether we admit it or not. There are different types of pain. There's acute pain. You have your leg bitten off by a shark. That's horrendous and horrible. And I'm going to deal with that in the same way that the next person is going to deal with that. But then there's chronic pain that's induced by boredom. And that is what we deal with when we talk about sport, really. So if you're in a workout and someone is yelling about the amount of pain they're in, that's only because they're hyper focused on that pain, because they're bored. That's like the only thing that they can think about. Yeah. And that's the trap that we all fall into when we do anything that's difficult, is that, your focus is this one thing, and if this one thing has been going on for a long time and your body is tired, you're going to think about how much pain you're in. But the easy way to stop doing that is to think about everything else that's happening around you. Think about using that as an opportunity to better yourself. Thinking about how you're interacting with other people, in relationships that you have. It's really about expanding out when you're feeling like it's really insular and the pain is driving you.
So do you still feel pain when you're doing this? My question is, when you get your mind off it and you start thinking about other things, does pain go away?
Yeah, it goes away.
You stop feeling pain.
It's like, if you run a 5K, right, and the last 200 meters are going to be horrible. If you run 100K, the last 200 meters are going to be horrible. It's kind of the same thing. Like once you know where the finish line is, then naturally the body goes to how much pain you're in.
Yeah.
But if it's so far in the distance, then you just think about other things, and the pain doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Obviously there's varying levels, and like if you're trying to run at a sub 3 minute pace and your heart rate is through the roof, then it's going to be a little bit more difficult to think about other things. But I do believe that it's possible to eliminate the pain in exercise by thinking about other things and using that time for better things.
I guess it's a thing that you use it as a tool, and the more you use it, the better the more you practice, the better you are with it. Because I know there's probably people listening that it's just like, I can think about anything else, but the pain's still going to be there. But I mean, for you, when you first started, like it wasn't a flick of the switch. Like it was a constant sort of training yourself, training the mind to sort of thinking about other things and block out the head noise. It must be an incredible skill to have.
Well, I just think that, when you're in that situation, you can go in two ways. You can just feel sorry for yourself and really do a deep dive into the pain and how horrible it is. Or you can think about like how lucky you are to be where you are and what you're doing. What a luxury to be able to like go off and do a trail run in a beautiful place. Yeah. Like that's amazing. I like to kind of like dare my body to go to its limits. So if I am in a workout and I look down at my watch and I'm at like 190 beats or something, I'm like, fuck yeah, this is great. Like,
really?
I want to go hard. I want to see how long I can keep it at this. Like it's not about, oh God, like I've got to slow down. This is too much. It's about going the other way. Yeah. Because I'm still really curious about what my body is capable of. I want to know on the day that I die. I want to know exactly what its pure ability is.
Do you think you'll find it?
I think I'm learning more and more with everything that I do. But inevitably, probably not.
Has it blown you away to know what you've put your body through the last sort of year, 2 years? How long you're doing these ultra races for? Has it blown you away to see how far you can push the human body? Because I remember when Ned Brockman was doing sort of, his runs for charity, he was doing it for 24 hours or I can't remember how long it was, that he was saying like, we are so much more capable of what we think we are.
Yeah.
And all we need is just to find that, that barrier of pain that is for a lot of us, it's the turnaround point. We run away from it.
Yep.
As soon as we find a bit of pain, it's just like, go the other way. But as soon as we push past that, that's where the real success is. That's when we sort of really understand who we really are.
Yeah.
Because something that I experienced was when I stopped playing rugby, I didn't realize that the competitiveness, the putting my body through the limits, competing with other people, I actually really missed it. So when I stopped playing, I thought I needed a rest from it. But 1 or 2 years down the track, I was like, fuck, I feel like I haven't achieved anything. I feel like I needed a rest from footy, but actually maybe I just needed to redirect my love or passion towards something else physically and mentally. And I had a few mates on the Gold Coast here training for a marathon. And like I said before, I hated running. Fucking hated running. Still hate running. And I was like, I was at the finish line and they had trained for it for months. They got a really good time. And I was at the finish line and I saw them. They were so proud of themselves because they've achieved something, like you said, pushed their body to the limits. They were so happy with each other. And I remember looking around and there's people from all walks of life, different ages, different genders, and they're all like at the finish line, like you see, like they were exhausted, but they could see like how happy they were that they achieved something. And it wasn't until that moment I realized, fuck, I need to pull my finger out here and I need to do something. And
I've always asked my guests, What are your 3 non-negotiables for living a healthy and full life? For me, it's movement, community, and good nutrition. I've learned that what you fill your body with plays a massive role in how you feel physically and mentally. That's why I use True Protein. They're an Aussie brand doing things the right way. Clean, natural supplements with no artificial additives or fillers. Everything's made in-house in Sydney's northern beaches using the highest quality ingredients sourced from around the world. Whether it's supporting energy, improving focus, or reducing fatigue, their products genuinely help me show up better every single day. And just like Mind Your Head, they live by values I stand by. Be true, be you, and take care of your whole self.
What I decided to do was, because I hated running, and a bit like yourself, I wanted to see how far I could push myself to breaking point. Because a lot of the time growing up, and to be honest with you, I was a quitter. Even the heights that I reached playing footy, I honestly, realistically, I reckon I gave it 80%.
Okay.
And I reckon I left 20% in there. And I don't know why that I didn't give it 100%. Maybe the fact if I failed, I could always say, well, I didn't give it, I could always use it as an excuse why I didn't, achieve things. And I hated that part of me. I hated that I always quit when things got tough. I hated that I wasn't always the hardest trainer. I hated that when things got hard, I would always, give in to the head noise. I hated that part of me. And the biggest motivator was the father that I want to be and the example that I want to lead to my kids.
Yeah.
Because I don't want their kids to look at me and see that he's a quitter. So one morning I got up, I just told my wife, and I was just like, I told her the day before, I was like, I'm just going to run to Noosa and back from Maroochydore. It's about 75 Ks in total. And the most I've run was like 5 Ks.
Oh, yeah.
Did no training,
Yeah.
and just got out of bed at 3 a.m. And she's like, "You what?" And I'm like, "Yeah, can you just meet me up at Noosa? I'll be at the surf club. Just bring me a drink bottle, banana, and I'll run back." And she's like, "You haven't done any training." And I was like, "But that's the point. Like, I didn't want it to be easy. I didn't want it to have any sort of advantage. I just wanted to do it raw and just see if I could just do it all on willpower."
Yeah.
And I got to like Coolum, and I got to like Sunshine Beach, got to Peregian, and I was thinking, oh, not too bad. And I sort of like got towards Noosa, and I was like, oh, fuck, my ankles are killing me. And then like my knees are killing me. And then I sort of got into Noosa, I got into surf club, and I wasn't feeling too bad. And then Jordan was like, get in the car. And I was like, no, I'm running back. She's like, you're not running back, are you? I was like, I'm running back. And she was like, fuck. And I told her like a time that I was going to be at sort of different places and expect me like be back at the house in like 10 hours or something. Like I was struggling. And it was, I still put it down to one of the biggest turning points in my life.
Yeah.
Physically, yes, like my body was in tatters, like, but it was like that. What you're talking about before is blocking out the head noise. And I made a promise to myself, and for a lot of the time, I wasn't keeping promises to myself. I would say that I say I was going to do something and I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make a change, a line in the sand. I'm not going to be this person anymore. And I remember like, it got to a point where it was easily mentally the hardest thing that I have ever done because there was just so much noise. Like, just quit. Who cares?
Yeah,
no one's watching. No one knows.
Yeah.
Just quit.
Yeah.
But there was a point in me that was like, you'll know. You're going to have to live with it. And what I realized was every time I stopped, I was like, fuck, I'm gone. And I would go to run again. The pain would just go through the roof. So I was just like, well, I can't stop now. I just got to keep going and keep going. And finally made it home, and Jordan was calling me. She was like, where are you? Meant to be home 3 hours ago. I'm like, I'm fucking struggling here. But I made it home, and it was probably one of the most proudest moments of my life because there was so much head noise. There was so much pain. My body was just screaming to stop, just to stop, please. And, I was limping. Like, by the time I get home, Jordan met me and I was limping. And I got home and she had like a bath. I got an ice bath ready for me just to jump in. And she went downstairs to get me a smoothie or something. And I remember like laying in the tub and I was thinking to myself, I reckon I could have gone further. Despite the fact that I achieved the thing that I wanted to achieve, even though I did actually think I was going to do it.
Yeah.
But I achieved it. And I remember thinking, if my house was 500 meters further, could I have got there? If my house was a K further, could I have got there?
And of course you could.
And I was thinking, of course I could. And I'm thinking, do I need to go back out and keep going? But what that did for me mentally was, it moved the bar of what I thought I was capable of.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, what's further? Like what you're saying before, what's the limit?
Yeah.
Because what you're doing, you're constantly moving that bar further and further, and I'm thinking to myself, man, I am so much more capable of what I think I was capable of before, and I did something. I put all that time and energy and pain and sacrifice into something that I don't like. Imagine what I could do for something that I do love.
Yeah.
You know, something that I'm passionate about. Am I selling myself short in all areas of my life?
Yeah, it's all true. You know, it really is. You're right. Like I firmly believe that we're capable of far more than we allow. I mean, you know, I'm looking at this through a lens of privilege here. You know, loving parents, was able to do everything that we wanted at school, and you know, all of that kind of thing. You know, there's people out there that are obviously experiencing really difficult times that are, you know, not having to worry about all this stuff in order to like tick a box and get the feeling that you need from these. But inevitably, you know, technology is moving in a way that life is becoming easier and easier. And then we're putting our kids on a track where they can live their entire lives without having to step outside of their comfort zone. And that scares the shit out of me, that I would put my kids in a position where they would lead a unbelievably typical life, the same as all of their peers, and not do anything extraordinary. Like, what a waste of a human life that would be. That truly terrifies me. So like a huge part of like what I'm doing is I want to demonstrate to them that it's not okay to do that. Like, you need to have adventures in your life because you only get one. So, you know, if on your deathbed you're like, oh, you know, I went to school here and then I got this job and then I did this and I did this and now I'm dead, you know, that would be tragic. You know, what a waste. I truly believe anyway, you know, so I think life is about life experiences, and the more you can have, fill that life up with them, you know, like go to Europe, do that gap year, go like take risks. Like, you know, I don't want to tell my kids to take risks, but I hope that they do. And I hope that they do extraordinary things and have like, you know, a terrific memories. If they're like me, they'll have shit memories. So they better like do extraordinary things in order for those memories to stay in their head. But, you know, going back to what you were saying about going to like trying to get to the point where like a turnaround point, trying to get to your limit, you know, that's something that has been in my mind since I started this whole thing into ultra running. And it's something that I hear all the time, because obviously now I do, like, people send me links about people doing extraordinary things like all the time in terms of like fastest known times on different trails and all that kind of stuff. And so I hear that all the time from people. I just want to find my limit. And I think that like the realization that I've had is that now I've gotten to a point where my limit is actually, it's pretty bleak, but like my limit is actually just death now. Like I've, you know, I'm coming from a position where like I've had rhabdo twice, and it's actually a great realization to have, because now I need to be more cautious, because I don't want to just drop dead and then, you know, not have anything left, not be in my kids' lives and be a good husband, all that kind of stuff. So it's been a great realization, but I truly believe that like I now have the ability where I don't have that limit that others would have. And you know, I almost guarantee you that if you were to actually ask Ned Brockman to be honest about it, or anyone else that's doing these things, if you were to say to them, hey, do you reckon you could run until you died? I guarantee you they would say, yeah, I could probably do that. So I just don't think that there is a limit, because it is something that like I've been working so hard to push for the last 6 years.
Let's get into that race, because I didn't know you did the Sahara one. I can imagine even the lead up and the training for that. You know, Australia gets pretty hot, so you could like replicate the conditions somewhat.
Plus, I spent a lot of time on the sand playing beach volleyball.
Oh, exactly.
So I was very familiar with the sand.
Very familiar with it, but the Arctic.
Yeah.
-40. I've been to Iceland. I've stayed a little bit in Canada too. I think it got to -20 or something when I was in Canada. I couldn't imagine the conditions when it's -40 out there. How did you train for that? Did you train here in Australia? Did you train
Yeah, I mean,
overseas?
I'm with you. I couldn't imagine the conditions either. It's not something that I'd ever been in. Like I'd probably been in -1, -2 previously, so I had like no idea of how my body was going to react in those conditions. But that was part of the challenge. So it was impossible for me to train for those conditions. So I figured that what I would do is just try and invest heavily in gear, try and make myself, try to mitigate as much risk by having the warmest jacket, the best thermals, the warmest sleeping bag, and really like do the research into that area, and then just hope that like I get out in Whitehorse in Canada, and I don't immediately want to jump back in the plane and fly home. But there was a real unknown there because I really no experience whatsoever in those conditions. So just get the best gear and hope that the fitness stuff. Like I knew that I had that in terms of I knew that I would get there fit enough to finish the race.
Yeah.
But in terms of everything else, pulling the sled, like,
did you do sled pulling, like training?
I did. I had a tire that I would pull that would somewhat replicate it, and I'd also do long efforts on the beach pulling a kettlebell. I did a 12-hour loop race in Adelaide where I just did it pulling the tire, so that I would have a little bit of an experience of how that would feel with the core and what effect that would have on the legs and that kind of thing. Because you have to, they're custom sleds that you have to get like there in Canada. So I knew I just never have an opportunity to, well, you could have your own, but
it won't be the exact same, will it? Yeah.
Well, some people brought their own sled over with them, people that had done these kind of ice ultras before. But we went out for like a 10K run because you got there a couple of days early before the start line. So that was my first experience, like pulling the sled. And I was pleasantly surprised with both, like with pulling the sled, felt like this is manageable, I can do this. Yeah. And also with the temperature. It was only in Whitehorse, it was like -15. And I was careful not to get too cocky about how good I felt.
This isn't so bad.
Yeah, I was like, this is all right. It's not too bad.
So how heavy was the sled with all your gear and everything on it?
So probably with all the water and food and everything like that, I reckon it would probably be between like 50 and 60 kilos.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy.
But you're pulling it on ice, and it's got wheels too, so it's not horrendous. Yeah. It adds something for sure.
For sure.
But even like being organized enough, I guess the biggest challenge there is in those really cold temperatures, you have so many layers of gloves in order for, to stave off frostbite, that if you need your fingers, which you do, to get anything from the sled, you've got to take them off and quickly do it. But the problem is within 60 seconds, they're numb, and then another 60 seconds, like, you're starting to get frostbite. So you got to do things really quickly.
And frostbite in 2 minutes.
Oh, like once your fingers go numb in -40 temperatures, it gets bad really quickly. And then if you don't achieve what you're trying to achieve, like be able to get what you need to get, then you got to quickly put the gloves on and then pray that you're going to get feeling back in your fingers. So there was like a couple of times when I was like, I've fucked it. Like I've left them off too long. I'm not going to get them back. And and then 2 hours later, you'd start feeling and you'd be like, oh, thank God. But then you'd have to wait until that you could feel again before you could like go and try and achieve what you needed to achieve from the sled. So like lots of different things that were like really challenging as a result of the temperatures that like I could never have imagined before heading over there.
What were some of your fears before heading over there? Obviously, you had no sort of, experience in the ice before.
Yeah, I was worried about, obviously, the temperatures and how I was going to deal with that. I was worried about the distance. Like 620 kilometres is just a really long time, a really long distance over a really long time.
Is that the longest you had done before?
Yeah, so I'd done one in WA that was about 300 kilometres, but that was like beautiful on the WA coast in warm temperatures and all the rest. So doesn't really compare. I was worried about sleeping because, again, you have to sleep out in the wilderness, and I've never been one for like I haven't done a lot of camping, so that's new for me. And in the end, I actually just didn't do it. Like I didn't really sleep. I had these like little micro naps on my sled, sort of like 5 to 7 minutes, and then like when my feet started to go numb, then I'd just get back up and start moving again. So like,
you did that for 5 days?
7 days. I slept like 11 hours the entire time. So and the 11 hours was made up of like these tiny micro sleeps. So I'd basically just, I'd sit on my sled, and then I'd just drop off, and then I'd wake up when I couldn't feel my feet anymore, and then just get going again. It'd buy me like an extra 2 hours each time, pretty much.
So I've done sleep deprivation.
Oh yeah,
in the army. We had to pass one of our courses. You had to do sleep deprivation for a week, and I think I got no sleep in 3 days, and then on the 4th day, I got to sleep for like 3 hours, and I thought it was the best thing ever. And like the sleep for 3 hours, I thought it like went for a minute. It went that quickly. But in the lead up to that, they were telling us like, look, you're going to start seeing things. You're going to start, hallucinating a little bit. Like, people experience sleeping while standing up. Like they'll just drop. And I'm like, what? That can't be real. And then by the 3rd day, like 3rd night, we're all like sort of digging these pits and these trenches and everything. And then you just hear this thump. And one of the boys have just like, they're standing up and they've just fallen asleep and they've just woken up on the ground. And I'm thinking, this is wild. And I was on guard, and, I was sort of patrolling, and there was just things were moving, and I was seeing things, and I was rubbing my eyes, and I was just like, what? I couldn't understand what was real, what wasn't real. Yeah. Had you experienced?
Oh yeah.
Oh really?
From about day 2, I was hallucinating wildly. And it was dark for a lot of it, for most of it. And, there was the northern lights, and then there was just snow everywhere. It was just like white, green and pink for the northern lights.
Beautiful.
And like amazing. Truly amazing. Yeah. But like snow on trees can look like anything. So I was seeing like, little dinosaurs crossing the street, like Care Bears, and like I'd move my hands and I'd see stardust floating around, and it was all like, I knew that I was hallucinating. So like it wasn't like I was believing what I was seeing. So it was entertaining, but it was weird. It was really weird.
Was it the first time you experienced anything like that?
No. It kind of just comes with ultra running, hallucinating.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for the long races, I mean, you don't sleep. So the one in WA, again, like no sleep over the 4 or 5 days that you're out there. So you just get used to seing random things.
It's part of the game.
It's probably the reason why some people do it, to be honest.
It's an expensive trip, isn't it?
Yeah.
When did the cold hit you? I remember you were saying when you first started, it was -15, and you didn't want to get ahead of yourself and be like, oh, this isn't too bad. When did the cold hit you and you realised, did you ever realise, fuck, I think I've gone too far. Like, I think I've got myself in a bit of trouble here. Was there anything?
Yeah, there was. So the first half of the race, we're really lucky because the temperatures kind of sat at about -20 to -25, which is really manageable if you have your layering right. And I became like pretty good, and the mistakes that I made early on didn't cost me the race because the temperatures like weren't that cold. In those temperatures, if you sweat, then you're screwed because the sweat doesn't dry. So you
stays wet.
Get hypothermia really quickly. Yeah. But because the temperatures weren't that low, I was able to just swap out thermals at aid stations. But the second half of the race, the temperature dropped to like below -40, and the wind picked up, and I started to get frostbite on my face, and the wind was a side wind, and the second last night I started to lose vision in my right eye, and I think that if I had been out there for an extra night, they probably would have pulled me from the race because the frostbite on my nose would have just gotten worse, and then if I totally lost sight in my right eye, then there's a risk of, I guess, permanent damage there, and that was always my thing. It was like, you're not leaving here unless you get pulled from the race. Yeah. And the only reason why you get pulled from the race is if there's permanent damage on the table. So that was the one time when I was worried. probably more worried that they'd pull me than, for the risk to my body. But it's trying to kill you, like minus 40 degree temperatures with wind. It's constantly trying to, you feel under attack. You're never comfortable. I had a beard, and you would have these buffs that you would constantly be changing out because they were basically instantly freeze, but the buff would like instantly freeze to my beard, and then I'd change it out and I'd be ripping out chunks of hair, and then the blood would just freeze and I'd have like bloody icicles hanging from my face, and in those temperatures, just horrible.
So when you said that someone like that they could pull you out of the race over that distance, is there people monitoring each person? Is it checkpoints? Like, how do they, if you're off by yourself, how do they, and something happens to you, how do they know where you are?
So you have a tracker on each year's sled. And then as the race went on, it was 14 starters and 5 finishers. So people are periodically kind of like dropping out of the race. There's an aid station every 80 to 100 kilometres. So they can kind of check in with you, check to see whether you've got frostbite at those aid stations. I think that there was only one time, there was on the second last stage, a Brazilian ultra runner, he lost his mind. So they were tracking him, and then he turned around and started going in the wrong direction off into the wilderness, and they basically went and grabbed him, and because he just lost he had a mental snap and just wasn't there anymore, turned his headlamp off and was just like walking in the wrong direction.
Really?
So
that's part of it. You've heard stories like that before?
Oh, it happens all the time. Yeah. I mean, again, like one of my great abilities, I think, is that regardless of how depleted I am, I still have a good ability to think. I've never had a mental break where I just haven't been with it, but you see it all the time. And you see it in 100-kilometer races. Some people, it's like being knocked out in a fight. Some people just lose it, and they're no longer who they are until they sleep, and then they wake up and they kind of have no memory of it. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's insane. Did you have to do a tryout, or did you have to complete some sort of
so when you start looking at these extreme races,
is there criteria you had to meet or anything like that?
Well, there's two parts of it. I mean, you have to have a resume that could demonstrate that you'd be able to finish.
Yeah.
But also, you wouldn't sign up for it if you couldn't finish, because there's too much that goes into it. Like the training, you have to do the training, which is extensive, very difficult. You have to buy the gear, which is a lot. You have to get there, which is very far away, and then you have to be able to, like, you have to believe that you can get to the finish line. If you don't have any of that, then like you've got there's no reason why you should be signing up for this. And they would say, like, there's no way they would allow someone who's never done an ultra attempt this.
That alone would weed out a lot of people.
Oh yeah. It's so niche, like I've done the UTA in the Blue Mountains in Sydney, and there's like 1,500 people doing it. Like it's the equivalent of a park run. And when you get to these like levels, because the thing is that over 620 kilometers, minus 40 conditions, there is every chance that you could perish. It
absolutely.
could absolutely happen. The race in the desert in the Sahara, people die in that race. I wouldn't say it's frequently, but I know that like a couple of people have died in the last couple of years. So it's definitely part of it.
Was there a moment where that you talked about that moment that sort of broke you? Is there a moment that sort of changed you forever? Like when you finish the race, you look back on it and go, "That, like, I'm a different person because of that."
I think that I've gotten a lot out of every ultra that I've done, and the thing that they're like therapy sessions.
Are they really?
They absolutely are. Like when you're in such a depleted state, you've got no ability to put up any kind of walls and be protect yourself at all. So like normally in life, if we think we're doing something like not very well, we'll give ourselves plenty of excuses as to why it's okay to operate like that. But when you're out there, you don't have the ability to do it. You're just too tired. So like you can highlight things that you're doing poorly at, And then you can start thinking about ways that when you get back, you might do those better. And then the trick is to remember the lessons for when you get back. And I've always, in those moments, I've always recognized that it is a learning moment. And I feel like I've been able to then take those lessons home with me. But it's difficult to think that, in order to get to that position, you need to be out in the middle of the wilderness in a life-threatening situation.
It is life-threatening, isn't it? Like, was your goal, I know this might sound silly, but was your goal to win or was your goal to finish?
Oh, my goal was to finish.
Was your goal was to finish?
And thinking about it, I'm still prouder that I finished than that I won. And I know that sounds weird, but from for essentially 5 years, I was picturing the finish line.
Well, finishing is winning, isn't it? Really?
Well, in this race, it is considered the hardest ultra marathon in the world. To get to the finish line in itself is like an unbelievable achievement. So even, halfway through the race when, I'd been kind of oscillating in the top three, it was never about like winning the race. I didn't care about the glory of winning the race. It was about like being able to persist long enough that I could get to the finish line in one piece. So yeah.
What was the feeling like when you crossed the finish line after everything, the 7 days of hell, pretty much? What was the feeling like? Was it relief, disbelief?
It was exhaustion.
Yeah.
It was so when you get to the Arctic Sea, which is in an indigenous hamlet called Tuktoyaktuk, there's a sign that you're on the Arctic Sea, and the end of the race is like touching that sign, and there's about 5 Ks of trail before you get into that sign. And I knew that I had won the race at that point. So they were kind of just guiding me to where I needed to go to finish the race. But I was so spent. I've never been, so dead on my feet, like just utterly exhausted, and then just overcome with like the emotion of this traumatic experience having been completed, and that, I would soon be on my way home to my family, and just that I could stop moving because, in those temperatures, you don't get a chance to stop, because if you stop, you die. So even when you're going slowly, like you still have to move. So just being able to stop and not move, be still, was like just such a relief.
They would have been so surprised that a bloke from Australia.
Yeah. Well, actually, we actually have a really rich history in this race.
Like, really?
It's incredible. There's a guy who has won the race previously that's in Warrnambool.
Yeah.
And Australians always do really well. And I think it's because it's so far away and so difficult to get to that, like, you just don't fuck around. So if you're going to give it a crack, then you have to give it a full. But probably the unique thing for me was just that I had never been in those temperatures before, which is probably the only entrant ever for this race to have never been in sub-zero temperatures before.
Yeah. Which is wild to think, because there must be people just going, you've never been anything like this before. You're like, nah.
Yeah, but again, like it's my plan is always to like take off like huge chunks, like try and set a massive goal and then back my body to be able to achieve it. And I just think, again, it's not obscene. It's just that we don't ever do it as a society. Like we
live in the comfort zone, don't we, all the time?
Absolutely. Like everything at our fingertips, always comfortable. If you want to be uncomfortable, you have to actively try. This is just like the opposite to that.
When you're going through, the worst moments out there, and you mentioned before, you just got to take your mind off things so you don't think about the pain. What did you think about?
I had a bunch of mantras that I would constantly be telling myself. So, some of it was like frostbite or finish. Like that was always my thing. Like I either get frostbite and pulled, or I'm finishing this race.
It's pretty blunt, isn't it?
It is. It's pretty blunt, but that's how I felt.
Yeah.
And then the other stuff was like I try and picture my family's faces in as much detail as I possibly can. And that would be, I could spend hours doing that. Again, trying to figure out how I could use the time to become a better person out there.
Yeah.
I'm naturally someone who doesn't mind being by themselves. So there was lots of things to keep myself busy. Sure, it gets difficult when the wind picks up and the temperatures get lower and lower, but I can honestly say there wasn't a single moment in the 7 days and 22 hours that I was out there that I ever felt like quitting, not even remotely, because in fact, I was terrified of being pulled. Like, I was so terrified. And it was because I just felt so much gratitude that I'd been able to do everything that I needed to be in that position. That my family had made sacrifices in order for me to live out this dream of mine. Because inevitably it is a selfish endeavor. It's something that I will get the vast majority of the benefit from. But to have that support and there was a groundswell of so much support coming from Australia. I didn't know it at the time, but I had so many people following me back here, and I got hundreds and hundreds of messages when I finished, and it was one of the most incredible things I've ever experienced in my life. Just that all these people would care about this one thing that I'm doing.
This episode is brought to you by TLC Recovery Centre on the Sunshine Coast. Whether you're chasing peak performance or just need to reset, TLC has everything you need. Infrared saunas to help detox your body, reduce inflammation, improve circulation and calm the nervous system, leaving you feeling lighter, clearer and more recovered after every session. They've got cold plunges to reduce inflammation, boost mood and mental clarity and build resilience. They've got compression boots to speed up muscle repair and massage therapists who know exactly what your body needs. But what really sets TLC apart? The people. The owners are the kind of good humans you want in your corner. Down to earth, genuinely care and deeply invested in the local community. Head to TLC Sunshine Coast, use the code TLC15MYH to receive 15% off and experience it for yourself.
Is it wild to think that you'd mentioned just before that caught my attention was the Indigenous people there?
Yeah.
Isn't it wild to think that there's Indigenous people living in those conditions?
The crazy thing is that they're really similar to the Indigenous people you see up north in Australia.
Really?
They face the same challenges. These people live on the ice that is the ocean, and they're obviously I wasn't in the community for a long time or anything like that, but I spent 2 days there, and from what I saw, it seemed really similar to, the people that you would see up north.
In what way?
Just that they have the same issues with interacting with the other outside communities. So it's a dry zone that hamlet. So there's no alcohol allowed because they've had challenges with alcohol, just like we have as well.
Yeah.
There's obviously issues in trying to take ancient cultures and have them live like we live. So the family units are struggling, high rates of domestic violence and issues with the police and all that kind of stuff. They face those same challenges. But minus 40 degrees and the kids are out there in these tiny gloves playing in the parks and stuff, and how are you doing that?
I went to Iceland, and we did a tour to see the Northern Lights.
Oh yeah.
And it was a family run business. The brother was driving the bus. The sister was the chaperone. She was sort of telling us all about the aurora lights and what it is actually, and the stars and everything that you're seeing. And she was a classic. She was so funny. She would have been 17 or something. And she's like, I got the day off school so I could get to come and talk to the tour bus and that sort of thing like that. And we're all rugged up. I'm freezing. Like you said before, the cold was freezing, but the wind, as soon as we got off the bus, the wind in Iceland was just straight in your face. You felt like you weren't, I had 5 layers on, and I felt like I was shirtless. It was, the wind was just going straight through it.
Yeah.
And here comes this girl, 17-year-old, comes off the bus in a t-shirt and shorts and a pair of shoes. And I'm thinking, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, do you want to put a jacket on? She's like, no, this is summer. I'm like, this isn't fucking summer. And like everyone's getting photos and she's in the snow laying down and getting photos of like upwards of people sort of their heads up towards the northern lights.
Oh, yeah.
And she's laying down in the snow and I'm got this hot chocolate and I'm shaking. And I'm thinking, she's a fucking nutcase.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It's
isn't it?
incredible. And
Yeah.
she was just like, well, that's just what
Yeah.
we've grown up.
in
This
it,
is normal for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, get on the bus and put a jumper on.
I know, and I'm the same as you. Like I feel the cold.
Oh.
Like even in Adelaide, you know, if the temperatures are low, like I love being warm. So that's even more miraculous that I was able to get through it because I feel it. It's no good for me.
What was the toll on the body physically when you finished?
It was significant.
Was it?
Yeah. So there was a couple of times when I ran out of food. So I was literally starving. So I lost like 6 kilos, which isn't that much. Like I've lost more than that in other ultras, but fundamentally, like I could feel a difference in my body when it comes to food. So like when I got back to Australia, I was starving like all the time. And I'm not someone who gets hungry. Like I just don't, that's just not been something that has been part of my life. So I was just trying to eat as much as I possibly could and just like obsessing, like constantly thinking about food. So I immediately put on like a bunch of weight when I got back and like was actually heavier within a month than I'd ever been before in my life. So it was like alarming that had changed, like chemically something had changed.
Yeah.
I had some pretty severe tendonitis in my ankle. So my ankle blew up about 150 kilometers into the race and then just like constantly pounding on it just made it worse. And then by the time I got home, like my whole leg was pretty huge. And that took a while to come down as well. I had numb fingers in my right hand for a couple of months after getting back, like just the tips of my fingers.
So would it have something to do with the nerves or something?
Yeah, just nerve damage.
Oh, right.
So that takes ages to come back. I was wearing shoes that had a carbon plate in them, and the carbon plate collapsed about 200 kilometers in and started digging into the heel of my foot. So I had like a totally numb heel for that's only just come back really. So that was another issue. But yeah, I felt different. Yeah. But again, like it was all stuff that would heal.
And it's incredible because pain will go away and the body will heal. But what you've achieved will always be with you forever.
Exactly.
Like pain, we talked about pain before. Like pain is something that we feel in the moment, but eventually it will go away.
I had some really good advice actually from an Australian who had attempted the race twice, and he had finished his second time, but like by a couple of minutes. And he said, the first time he got to within about 200 kilometers of the finish line and just decided that he was in too much pain. His body had enough, and he decided to be pulled from the race. And he was like, be really careful, because if you get to that point, don't give in, because you'll finish and then you'll go back to whatever town they're in. You'll have a night's sleep and you'll wake up the next morning and be like, oh, I'm not that bad. Yeah. And then like what a huge waste that's been.
What a huge regret.
Like massively. And it was never something that came into my mind, as I said, but that is the truth for so many things.
So many things.
I can't go on anymore. I'm so I'm just done. Yeah. And then I've recovered.
That's the thing. Like you would just say, next week I'm back in Australia. Next week I'm back in Australia. Next week I'll be with my family again. Like
I can recover there.
Recover there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I read somewhere that that when you got back, you kept waking up thinking that you were still in the Arctic. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, because sleep for me turned into these little like micro naps. It was really hard for me to then get on like any kind of a normal
sleeping pattern. Really?
Like almost impossible.
How long did that take?
Well, probably
now.
No. It probably took like a month to start feeling like a normal human again.
Wow.
I never thought that you could do that in terms of sleep. Like I always thought you'd need a couple of hours at least to be able to function. But like training during that race, being able to train myself to just fall out of consciousness and then come back really quickly, and then be able to like make great use of the additional awake hours you get as a result, it became such a fine art for what I was doing. And really the only reason why I was able to win the race, because I just slept a lot less than everyone else. So, if I had spent the time sleeping like they did, I wouldn't have won. I would have finished, but I wouldn't have won. So, just being able to go for that amount of time without sleep was
the key to victory.
Yeah. The one interesting thing though was I became really good at doing that. But I remember one time it was like early in the morning, and I couldn't move. I couldn't I was at risk of just falling over. So I went to have a mini nap, and I probably slept for maybe 20 minutes. And I woke up and it was like I had a brain reset. When I woke up, I had no idea where I was. And it took probably 5 minutes to gather my surroundings and understand what I was doing, and where specifically how I'd gotten to be there. It was so strange. It was it was literally turning your phone off and on.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Do you reckon you're addicted to pain?
Absolutely.
You are?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Pain is now an important part of my life, and it's my biggest challenge to try and find a healthy relationship with it, because I'm aware that I need pain in an unhealthy way. I don't feel like I'm being productive unless I have some experience of pain during the day. If I'm out traveling for work, which I often do, and I can't get to a gym, I'll try and spend half an hour in a traditional sauna as close to the fire as I can without drinking any water, just so that I can go through a little bit of a trauma to get my fix for the day, which I know sounds that sounds exactly like a drug addict. I know that's the truth, but my challenge is trying to find a healthy balance where it's still a positive thing in my life. Again, because I'm aware that I don't want to have my kids grow up thinking that they've got to constantly be in pain to be happy.
But it's also I experienced this thing where, you associate pain with growth.
Yeah.
So if you're not sort of putting yourself through pain, if you're not feeling pain, you almost don't feel like you're growing or developing as a human. Yeah. And it's just like you said, you're trying to find that right
I get
balance.
really anxious. In all honesty, I get really anxious if I go a couple of days without doing some form of exercise. It upsets me. I really struggle with it. Finding a balance. I'm not there yet. Absolutely not.
Well,
but
the work never stops, does it?
That's it. Yeah.
Is it hard for you to slow down now? Is it hard for you, like you said before, is it hard for you because you've sort of reached these heights and you experience these massive highs, even though you're in so much pain and suffering, and it would be such an adrenaline rush at the same time, I bet, as well. Is it hard to sort of come back to quote normal life and then sort of be happy with it?
The reality is life is easier when you've got a huge goal that you're working towards, because there's structure there. Know that you've got to be at a certain level. You've got to do the work, and that's easier because you're working towards something. When you don't have that goal, you're kind of in no man's land, and that's kind of the zone I'm in now, where I want to maintain my level of fitness, and I want to be strong and have a body that's capable of doing a lot of things, but I also don't have something that I've set my sights on. So
nothing just yet.
Well,
nothing to report.
No, it's certainly not this year. It's always an ongoing conversation with my wife.
Is it? So what does she think about the whole thing?
She hates it.
Does she?
She hates it. Yeah. Yeah, no, she's supportive.
Yeah,
but she understands that I can do damage to myself, and I could potentially kill myself. She knows. She knew before I did that I probably didn't have a limit where I would stop, because I felt like I was, in peril. So it's always really scary for her when I say, "Oh, I'm going to go over the other side of the world and into these horrible conditions to do this," very dangerous thing. And I understand that. I would probably feel the same way if she was out there doing the same thing. But you know, we are different people and that she doesn't have the urge to test herself like I do. So I'm constantly trying to, you know, reason with her and try and find that happy medium of where I can satisfy what I need to do without causing her too much anxiety and pain and all the rest. So it's a sort of work in progress.
Yeah, because I'm sure you get a lot of people, friends, family, like even strangers come up to you and say, like, what on earth would you be doing that for? What do you hope they understood about what you want to achieve?
Yeah, my message is really just that, in my opinion, you should fill your life with plenty of life experiences.
Yeah.
And, you know, that doesn't need to be really extreme things. Like, that's what I've chosen. But, you know, I think that bring your kids into nature, have them see things that they won't see when they're at home or on a computer or on TV. You know, like, go out and experience difficult things. You know, I'd like to normalize it a little bit more. Yeah, like, this is an extreme thing to do, but hey, you could get off the couch, work 6 months and run an ultra marathon. It might not be fast, but you could do it. You could get to the finish line. Because the truth is, the vast majority of people that I would talk to would be like 100 kilometers. That's way too long. I could never do that. There's no chance I could do that. But the reality is, and I firmly believe this, is that, like, the vast majority of people could, if they wanted to, and if they were willing to push themselves. And I'd just like to normalize that a little bit more.
Yeah, I love that. I read somewhere that were you raising awareness for youth mental health?
Yeah. Again, so this was this was something for me. I wanted there to be an element where I was providing some value for another group, or it had a greater meaning than just being a selfish endeavor for myself. So I have got a really good friend of mine who runs up the charitable arm of the Adelaide Crows. And they work really closely with Jules Sebastian and their charity. And they have a program called Open Parachute, which is a resilience program that gets rolled out in schools around the country and, you know, gives kids at a really crucial time. Again, like, I remember back to how I was, gives them strategies and skills to be able to navigate those difficult situations. And, you know, it's a great program. $15 puts a kid through for 12 months. So I work closely with them and some, like, local businesses and some businesses in New South Wales and in Manly, where I used to live, and raise money for that program. And by the end of the run, we ended up raising like nearly $30,000, which was just more than I was hoping for.
That's incredible, yeah.
And like, you know, that money will make a real difference. It will make so much more of a difference than the run ever could, because, you know, all you need is for a couple of kids that were like me, a really difficult time in their lives, and maybe this program will help them get through it and be a little bit more okay. So yeah, I'm really proud of that, actually. A lot of people helped out, and the result was just, like, fantastic.
Was there ever a point that your mental health was low?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you know, I always feel a little bit awkward talking about it, because I am coming from a position of, like, great privilege in that, you know, I have everything that I've ever needed has been, like, pretty much at my fingertips. I've not experienced any really difficult hardships that so many people do. But the truth is that, like, I've always been prone to getting pretty dark. You know, it was really evident early on as a kid. Like, actually, you know, it's again, it's pretty bleak to say, but I feel like it's a miracle that I didn't kill myself when I was a teenager. So, you know, and it's kind of come back at times as I've been older. And when I got back from the Sahara Desert, like, it hit me really hard, because I was like, oh, like, the high of being able to achieve this, like, totally abnormal thing that I had set myself. And then I'm like, well, what's next? Like, what can I do? Am I just destined to work a job for the rest of my life? Is that the scope of, like, what Aaron is going to be? And I felt, like, real dark. And, you know, that was the first time in my life I ever went and did some therapy, and it kind of gave me some tools, and then I just started doing ultras more and more, and then I started to sort of like invest more in myself and how I thought about things, and trying to come up with like actual like my own strategies, like give it great thought, and do a bit of trial and error and see what works and what doesn't, and I feel like now I'm at a much even sort of level than I have been previously. Like I'm probably happier now than I've been.
And what do you think? What do you think the reason is for that? Like, what was the core of sort of those low moments? Was it you trying to figure out what to do with your life?
I think it was really at the core of it. I think it was like, what have I been able to do with this opportunity that I've got? Like, what have I done with my body? What have I done with my mind? Like, am I capable of anything outside of this? And, you know, like I since then, you know, like I've been able to, I have great pride in the way I am as a father, and I think that I'm a good husband too. So, you know, I think that I've worked at that, and you know, my kids are just like amazing kids. They're just so well rounded, and
really proud of them.
I'm really proud of that. And then obviously just like the work that I've done with the endurance stuff and in my professional life, I just feel like I'm getting closer to a point where, when all is said and done, I'll have been able to have some very unique experiences in my life, and
some amazing memories.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have dementia at some point, and probably won't remember.
Why do you say that?
Oh, I think I've got a pretty I've got a good brain in that, like, I'm able to keep my head in stressful situations and
compose yourself.
But I think that it's also probably like, I've got a friend who can just remember everything about when we were you know, like
kids,
teenagers running around, getting up to mischief, and he'll be like, "Oh, do you remember we did this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I remember," but really, I've got no idea. And you know, so like, I've always known my memory's pretty rubbish, and I just expect that at some point it's all going to go.
Well, hopefully you've got some nice videos and photos. And do you keep a journal or anything like that?
No,
do you write down anything like that?
No,
because that would have been a funny journal to read you out of the Arctic each night. Like, it's
weird though, because you know that I got back in March, and now it's starting to feel like such a long time ago that you know, even on the way here I was thinking back to the details. I'm like, far out, like it doesn't even feel like it was me that did that. You know,
someone else.
It was so long ago now.
Oh, that's incredible. So we've just got some quick fire questions to finish off. We've got about 15 minutes.
Okay.
What's the best advice you've ever received?
Best advice I've ever received. Oh, mate, I really don't know. It's probably, you know what? It's probably I've had a lot of coaches in my time through volleyball, and I've been able to take some of like the parts of the ethos that work for the individual coaches and try and combine it all. So it's probably not like a specific piece of advice, but it's probably more of a way of conducting myself in a competitive sport environment. And I think that when we talk about competitive sport, there's so many transferable skills to professional life, and also your personal life. So it's probably just a combination of, like, I had a really good volleyball coach called Marty, who was able to tell me the things that like worked really well for him when he was a professional volleyball athlete, and take on those things and then try and like utilize them, but probably don't have a specific piece of advice.
Yeah, that's all right. If someone's listening that's going through something tough at the moment, how do you hope your story impacts them?
So I hope that they would acknowledge that, it's difficult, and that they need to look at being productive to find a way to make it less difficult. And I would encourage them to, again, invest in themselves. Like, try not to delve into the despair and look for solutions. And you know, the reality is that developing yourself will always result in self-confidence, and self-confidence is generally always the answer. So if you're depressed, you're probably feeling stuck, or you're feeling anxious about the future. You know, go and learn how to cook, or go and learn how to pick up an online course, or go run a 5K. You know, just go and join a community, do something that is outside of your comfort zone. You know, it's so cliche, but all of the best stuff happens outside of your comfort zone.
It does. It really does.
It's the one truth like that I absolutely hang my hat on. You know, when in doubt, do something scary.
Yeah, it's so true, because all the things that I used to run away from, all the discomfort, or the pain, or the embarrassment, or the fear. Fear was a big thing for me that ruled a lot of my life. Where I started, even beginning the podcast 2 years ago, I was terrified. I was like, what are people going to think? No one's going to listen. Who's going to come on? Am I even good at this? Like, what's it going to be like? And then I remember when I first started, it was like a little flick went off in my head. It was just like, oh, this isn't so bad at all. Like, what was I so scared of to begin with? Like, there's actually nothing to be scared of whatsoever. And I think Alex Hormozi, I don't know if you're familiar with him, he's got this quote where fear is like a mile wide and an inch deep. So it feels like this ocean you're about to step into and drown. Yeah. But as soon as you step out into it, it's only an inch deep, and you just walk straight through it. And it's not as scary as you actually think it is. And a lot of the things, all the doors that have opened in my life, and all the people that I've got to meet, wouldn't have happened if I didn't take that first step and realize it's actually not as scary as you think it is. And I think a lot of the time, fear is holding a lot of people back from experiencing greatness or achieving, wonderful things in their life. Yeah.
Probably the number one reason. It's and again, because things are getting more and more comfortable, and we're being told to be more and more comfortable, things become more scary. When it's not comfortable. But finding comfort in the uncomfortable is a great skill. And I think that it's a real emerging thing in schools now, resilience, trying to have kids understand that there's great value in that, and being comfortable in the uncomfortable is exactly what that is. Finding a way, and the only way you can get there is by working at it. It's a skill. It's like everything else, and you just need to do it.
Yeah, it's incredible, because I think, Jordan and I talk about it as the world that our kids are going to grow up. It will be so vastly different to the world that I grew up, to the world that you grew up, and getting them outside of their comfort zones is something like, I see kids now that all the screen time, like you're battling kids with their screen time, and understanding that you need to get out there and experience some sort of suffering. I know suffering gets painted in such a bad, negative way, but I think we all got to experience suffering at some point in our lives to be resilient.
Yeah. Well, at the core of it, like we are all just living a life, but part of that is getting better at different things. And unfortunately, don't get me wrong, like the technology is all amazing, and it some of it is so good and is going to be so valuable for kids having successful careers and all that kind of stuff. But we're neglecting a whole other side of life, and it's devastating, because I honestly do believe that, like, we're putting kids on a track where they're all just going to have the same life experience. It's just going to be the same life, because technology is going to dictate in which way they go. And I'd like to break that mold for my kids, because I want them to also lead extraordinary lives. I think we should be encouraging kids to do that.
What's your deepest fear? If there is any.
Yeah. So my 100%, my deepest fear is not being able to hit a target that I've set for myself. So when I am, like, if I'm out, in the context of an ultramarathon, for example, I'm terrified of not finishing way more terrified of that than I am of injury, sickness, or even death. Like the idea of saying, like I've never DNF'd like in any race, and I've probably done like 30 ultras at this point.
The fear of failure.
The fear of failure, like based on like expectations that I've set on myself, because I feel like it's a slippery slope. Like if I don't hit it once, then
floodgates
is it
are
over?
open.
And you know, I know that that's in some ways ridiculous, but it scares me.
Well, it's an amazing thing to keep driving you forward, isn't it? Though, like just to have that in the back of your head to realize this isn't an option.
Yeah, it is.
What are your 3 non-negotiables for living a healthy and full life? Top 3.
It's for me, it's investing in my kids. So it's making sure that I am trying, like I'm giving it the time that's necessary, because I think that we all really struggle with, you know, sometimes when we feel busy or when we need to do something ourselves, like again, we just give them a phone or an iPad or something like that. So it's trying to like limit that and give a real good, honest effort in making sure that I give them the time that they deserve, playing with them as well. I think that continually progressing for me is a non-negotiable. So, you know, if now ultras is done for me, then finding another avenue to like funnel that energy into where I feel like I'm progressing and becoming better. And then I think that just being like a good husband, family provider, and keeping that unit in good nick is also really part of being living a healthy life.
Do we know what's next yet?
Well,
do you have options?
The bottom line is that there's nothing next. And again, it's a negotiation with my wife, and for me, ultras is probably done now, because I just don't. There's nothing left.
Well, I was going to ask you that. Like, what's the like? That's you've just done.
Yeah,
you've just done the hardest.
There's nothing else in that world that like would interest me to a point where I would be able to like train solidly for another year and go and do that. I really don't know, to be honest. But maybe something academic. Maybe I'll try and develop my brain a little bit more, or maybe I'll give swimming another crack and see if I can get better at that.
Get back in the pool.
That's channel crossing.
That's also like a cool thing to know that there's, you've got options. Like, the work never stops. Like, you're always like searching for the new thing.
As long as it's scary and uncomfortable, it's something worth doing.
I love that,
because in reality it's all safe. Like, you're just giving it a crack, but it's always going to develop you and what you do as a person.
For sure. Do you think that we all need something extreme to wake us up sometimes?
I think that, again, we should normalize things that are difficult. So I don't think that we should call things extreme. Like, I think that we should, it should be in the conversation, and the overall health conversation, that our bodies are actually far more capable than we give them credit for. Like, I truly believe that, you might ask a GP and they might tell you that, training for a couple of weeks and then doing a marathon is dangerous. But the thing is that it's only dangerous if you try and do it fast and your heart rate is at 200 beats for the entire time. Like, go out there and do something that you've not done before. Go a distance that you've never gone before. But like, let's normalize that, so that we should be, instead of like, progressively dying, we should be continuing to get better physically until, and then, if you have some acute injury or chronic illness, you've got a much higher base than you had previously. Then even if that happens, the reality is that working on yourself is always going to be good. So even if you're not capable of doing physical exercise, find another way to get to get better at what you do.
Last one. Who's your hero?
Who's my hero? I'm not I don't like have someone that I would say is my hero. I can admire people. So like, Eliud Kipchoge is just like an incredible runner. Like I'm always so impressed that like fast marathon runners, because running at that pace is so difficult. And like, I always think, oh man, I'd pay good money to have a go in his body, like just to feel,
it's mind-blowing, isn't it?
what that would be like. It's like everyone in the world can run pretty much. So to be able to get that good with that many people doing the sport is truly incredible.
Yeah.
So I guess like in terms of a figure, like that would be the
one
closest I would have.
Yeah. Aaron, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today, mate, and being so open and honest and telling your story. Like I said at the start, I'm in absolute awe of what you've achieved. I know you want to normalize it, but still, for me, it's incredible, mate. It really is. You should be really proud of yourself.
Thanks. It's been fun, and I appreciate you just listening to me for the last hour or so. It feels a little bit like a therapy session, so that's good.
Awesome, mate. Thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for listening to another episode of Mind Your Head. If you'd like to support the show, be sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcasts. It really supports the show and helps others discover us. Don't forget to join us on Instagram and TikTok at mindyourhead.podcast.